A very short video on how to create great poses for animation. This is a sketch by Cliff Nordberg, who was one of the great Disney animators and was in charge of training at Disney. And you can see how good Nordberg was at taking a simple pose and giving it loads of emotion and loads of vitality. So here we've got 9 ways. I'm gonna suggest 9 ways to get a great pose for animation. Number 1, start with a sketch. Even if you don't draw well or don't really like drawing, it's still a great way to begin, is just to sketch something up, just to have a scribble. That's how I tend to get started with stuff, and just start with a drawing on a napkin or a pencil and paper. Just scribble something down, a pose, cartoon, pantomime, whatever, just to get you thinking. Second method, number 2, act it out yourself. Take a picture of yourself in the pose or get somebody else to do it. And then film them, take a picture of them with your phone. And you can use these 2 methods together. So for example, you can act something out, you can take a picture of yourself in the pose, you can get somebody else to do the pose, and then you can do a drawing based on that in which you exaggerate it and make it stronger and make it more powerful. So these 2 methods working together can be really powerful. Now, when you're thinking about this, tip number 3 is make sure the pose has a good silhouette. These drawings here are taken from Eric Goldberg's book, Animation Crash Course, which is a wonderful book. I recommend any animator get hold of it. And you can see that Eric's pose here, this character with the flowers, this works great in silhouette. The sad character here works great in silhouette. The happy character looks great in silhouette. So if you kind of half close your eyes and you look at your pose and ask yourself, does it work in silhouette? That is a really good way of making sure that you get a good strong pose. This is a poster that I did back in the 80s, which was all based. It was for the Christmas ball at my the college I was at, and you can see that it's all about silhouettes. Here's another example. Mickey from this is actually taken from the Illusion of Life. Really nice, clear staging by Up Eye Works. Mickey licking his thumb there, and here's a live action one. We all know what's going on. So silhouettes can be really powerful. Right, number 4, set up your camera. What's the audience actually going to see? You always want to do this. It's one of the things that animators are always tempted to leave till late in Maya, because you get the perspective view for free and you dolly, move and zoom within that perspective view. But if you create your own camera and you make that decision, is it a wide shot? Is it a mid shot? Is it a close-up? Is it an extreme close-up? Is it a 2 shot? That will make a really big difference to how the pose is going to read. So create your camera and look through the camera. Tip number 5, think asymmetrically. Again, this is taken from the animator's The Illusion of Life. You can see Mickey here on the left. This is a kind of wooden pose, very symmetrical. But the pose on the right is much stronger because it's asymmetrical. So you want to think in terms of throwing off the symmetry, not making stuff too symmetrical, make it more dynamic. So if you compare these 2 poses, the one on the left is obviously less strong than the one on the right. And if you think about something like, say, Kung Fu Panda, DreamWorks are really good at this, not just in the pose, but also you can see in the facial expressions, one brow up, one brow down. Their style of animation is very asymmetrical. Here's some great examples from Calvin and Hobbes, from the great Bill Watterson. Okay, tip number 6, ask yourself, where is the weight? Here's a photo that I found on the internet somewhere years ago of a chap taking his poor old mum home. They've bought beer at the local shop, and you can see, because she's leaning over here, that she is carrying something really heavy. So the fact that she is leaning shows how heavy this crate of beer is. And that tells us everything we want to know. So weight is really important when you're getting a pose right. Tip number 7, make it interesting, give it appeal. Here's a sketch of Shere Khan by the late great Milt Kahl from the Disney studio. Appeal is a sort of hard to explain kind of principle, but somehow you've got to make your stuff appealing. And what exactly it is that makes something appealing is a little bit like asking what the X factor is in something but you want to try and make stuff as appealing as possible. Tip number 8, adjust the focal length. If you drop the background out, that can make your pose much stronger. As with this cat, we focus on the character's eyes. We're not worried about the background. So an action shot can look more dynamic with a short focal length. You can try even less than 35mm. Try 20mm, and you'll get much more dynamism in your pose. Also, you want to think about the line of action in a pose. This kind of comes back to asymmetry, but think about trying to avoid characters that stand up. This is going back to the Mickey pose. When you're doing life drawings, these are some of mine. Always look for the line of action. Always try and make it as dynamic as you can. Ask yourself, which of these two poses is better, the one at the top or the one at the bottom? You've got 3 running ducks here. Top is clearly stronger, right? Because you've got more variety in this pose. We all know what's going to happen here. You don't need to animate this. You can just have a blur. But Donald is about to leave the scene, so this pose clearly communicates what's going on in the shot. So 9 ways to get a great pose. In summary, start with a sketch, storyboard or thumbnail. Act it out yourself. Draw yourself doing it. Make a sketch of yourself acting the thing out. Make sure it has a great silhouette. Make sure you set up a camera. Think asymmetrically. Ask yourself where the weight is. Give it appeal and fiddle with the camera. Remember that a narrow focal length can give your shot a lot more dynamism. So those are some of my thoughts on how to make a great pose. This applies as much to 2D animation as it does to 3D animation. It's the same whether you're doing it in Maya, in Blender, or in TV Paint. It's all the same. So many software packages now to animate with, but in the end, it's all about getting those great principles of animation understood, mastered, and creating great work yourself.